I think my wife is cheating, but I can't prove it. I've been married to my wife, Emma, 29F, for 5 years, and up until recently, I thought we had a strong relationship. I, 31M, work a demanding job, but I've always made time for her, whether it's our weekly date nights or small surprises to keep the spark alive. She's always been the light in my life, funny, kind, and supportive. But over the past couple of months, something has changed, and I can't shake the feeling that she's hiding something from me. It all started a few months ago when Emma began spending more time on her phone. She used to leave it lying around, but now it's always in her hand or face down on the table. At first, I didn't think much of it. She's active on social media, so I assumed she was just scrolling through Instagram or texting friends. But then, she started guarding her phone like it held state secrets. I accidentally caught a glimpse of her screen once while she was texting, and she immediately locked her phone and gave me a nervous laugh, saying it was nothing important. That was when the first seed of doubt was planted in my mind. Then came the late nights. Emma started saying she needed to stay late at work to finish a big project. She works in marketing, and her job can get hectic, so I didn't question it at first. But it started happening more and more often, 3, sometimes 4 times a week. When I asked her about it, she'd give vague answers like, "It's just a crazy time right now." One night, she came home smelling like cologne, not mine. I asked her about it, and she laughed it off, saying she must have bumped into someone at work. I didn't want to be the paranoid husband, so I let it go. The final straw was last weekend. We were supposed to go to a friend's birthday party together, but Emma backed out last minute, saying she wasn't feeling well. I went alone, but something didn't sit right with me. When I got home, she wasn't in bed. She claimed she'd fallen asleep on the couch after watching a movie, but her makeup was still perfect, and her hair looked freshly done. I've tried telling myself that I'm overthinking, that I'm reading into things that aren't there. But every time I see her texting with that little smile on her face, or hear her laugh at something she won't explain, my gut tells me something's wrong. I haven't confronted her yet because I don't want to accuse her without proof. I've thought about checking her phone or asking one of her coworkers, but I feel like that crosses a line. Am I being paranoid, or is my marriage slipping through my fingers without me realizing it? After weeks of agonizing over my suspicions about Emma, I decided I couldn't live in the dark any longer. I needed answers. Confronting her without proof felt like a recipe for disaster, so I started paying closer attention. First, I looked at her behavior. Emma had started dressing up more, even for casual outings, and she seemed more distant than ever. Our conversations felt hollow, like she was going through the motions. I tried to reconnect with her, suggesting date nights, cooking her favorite meals, but she always had an excuse: work, exhaustion, or needing me time. Then, one night while she was in the shower, her phone buzzed on the kitchen counter. I told myself I wasn't going to check it, but the notification caught my eye. It was from someone named M. The message preview said, "Can't wait to see you again." My heart dropped. I wanted to open the message, but the phone was locked. Instead, I decided to take another approach. I remembered Emma mentioning she'd be working late again that Friday, so I made up my mind to follow her. Friday came, and Emma left the house at 7 p.m., saying she'd be back late because her team was finalizing a campaign. I waited for her to leave, then grabbed my car keys and followed her from a distance. I felt ridiculous, like some character in a bad spy movie, but I couldn't ignore my instincts anymore. To my surprise, Emma didn't head to her office. Instead, she drove across town to a restaurant, one we used to frequent for special occasions. I parked far enough away to avoid being seen and watched as she walked inside. A few minutes later, a man joined her at the table. He was tall, well-dressed, and had this air of confidence that made my stomach turn. They were laughing and leaning in close, completely absorbed in each other. I snapped a picture of them through the window, my hands shaking as I held up my phone. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. This wasn't a work meeting. This wasn't innocent. I debated confronting them right then and there, but I froze. Part of me didn't want to cause a scene, and another part of me was terrified of hearing her admit the truth. So I left. I drove aimlessly for hours, my mind racing. When I got home, Emma was already there, acting like nothing had happened. She greeted me with a smile and asked how my evening was, as if she hadn't just been on a date with another man. The sheer audacity of it made my blood boil, but I bit my tongue. That night, I couldn't sleep. The image of her laughing with that man replayed in my head over and over. I decided I needed to confront her, but I wanted to gather more evidence first. I started going through our phone bill and noticed several repeated calls to the same number, one I didn't recognize. The next morning, while Emma was still asleep, I called the number. A man answered. My heart was pounding as I said, "Who is this?" There was a long pause before he said, "Who's asking?" I hung up without saying another word. My suspicions were confirmed. This wasn't just in my head. Emma was cheating. Now I'm left with a decision. Do I confront her, or do I take everything I've found and prepare for the inevitable end of our marriage?